541. It's a little chorus that I know from Cragmont, and we'll just sing the first and the last verses. And do what? Well, we'll sing all three of them, and it's short, and the second one's kind of good. Let's stand as we sing. 541. Thank you. You may be seated. Now I'm looking for a piece of paper that I wrote on, and I don't have it. So I'll try to remember it. No, it was just a name written on it, and um, um, by way of announcements, tomorrow evening or tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock, we'll have the senior fellowship in the fellowship hall. And we're going to be careful because there'll be a lot of arranging already done for tomorrow night. So we're going to be real careful and just use how things are set up and not make a mess. So that is tomorrow night. And tomorrow morning at 10. And then tomorrow evening at 6:30, the Circle of Joy will have their Thanksgiving with the Women's Auxiliary. So, and then Saturday at 2 o'clock, the wedding bells for Katie and Adam. Now, gonna put both of them on the prayer list. Katie is in the bed sick with this cold, just fever, cold, whatever. And it's like we all know what she's talking about. You know, you can feel good during the day because you're up and you're moving, and but then night comes, and here it comes. So, and that is stressing Adam out. I don't think he can make a coherent sentence at this point in time, to be perfectly honest with you. So, and with that said, the dollies have already been moved up in place. After worship, we need to move our wall back to the back position and clear the front of this. We've got everything we need to get everything cleared out so that they're going to be here tonight after church and start getting things set up for the wedding Saturday. And so please bear that in mind. And come and join us Saturday afternoon, and everybody bring a pea shooter or something to be distracting to him, because I can say that because I'm not doing the wedding. See, I won't be up here. I'll be out there. His future father-in-law is doing the wedding, so he will be on his best behavior Saturday. Yes. Katie's stepfather is the Reverend Tom Malin, the pastor at Gum Swamp. And so that is who is doing the nuptiales, and not me. So remember that. Sunday is our Thanksgiving worship. We have a lot to be thankful for, and I know there's a lot going on, and we are so busy. But sometimes I wonder if we don't just get so busy that we just really lose sight of what the joy of Christian living is supposed to be all about. Now, that's hit me this week. And I looked down at my odometer today when I was getting back in town from Windsor. And I looked down and I'm like, no way. I wanted to start accusing Toby at Fire Ford of messing with my mileage thing when he changed the oil on the car yesterday. I'm like, I've been 281 miles since yesterday morning. No. And it was right. Because I was back down to a quarter of a tank, and I just filled up yesterday morning. I'm like, I'm way too busy here. So I came straight back to my office and shut the door. I got to get concentrating on other things, and we can get that way. We can get doing so many busy things. I didn't do a thing that wasn't necessary. I needed to go pick up stamps for my stamp people. I needed to go and visit Louise and visit Carol, and these were all these errands and people in different towns and all. And next thing you know, you're running yourself ragged, and we need to just slow down and step back. Also, it is Building Fund Sunday. Please be prayerful about that. But we will have a special Thanksgiving service. Now, let's remember that next week we will meet on Tuesday night, as we have begun a tradition doing. I think our family people really like that because it gives them Wednesday night to either travel or finish getting finishing touches on stuff in the oven and all. But we'll have a supper out here next Tuesday night. And I can go ahead and tell you the menu because it's my team. But we're going to have barbecue pork loin, boneless barbecue pork loin. I promised Karen I would not do ham or turkey because it's 2 days before Thanksgiving and everybody's gonna get ham and turkeyed out to death come next Thursday. And so we're doing a barbecue pork loin supper with green beans, potato salad, and corn on the cob, and rolls and desserts and drinks and so on. And as soon as we get the cost of the meat covered, everything else is donated, and anything that you give will go to the children's playground. We're going to take Tuesday night's thing next week, and whatever gets given is going to go, once we get those pork loins paid for, everything else is going to go towards the children's playground. So it's whatever you would like to contribute next Tuesday night. So please bear that in mind. And getting ready to print up some brochures that look real nice, and if you may want to get a few of them. Are we going to have them ready Sunday? I mean, I can. Okay. Because we can just zap bing out there, and that way, if you call on business people or no business people or what, zoom bang bang boom, whatever, we can zap them right out pretty quick. We were asked by a couple of church members. The committee was asked to say, I deal with businessmen every day. That's who our company deals with, or business people. And if I had some kind of a brochure or something to show a picture, like maybe a picture of the playground equipment we want to buy, some pictures of our kids playing on the playground equipment we've got, right? Shows the whole project. We got a couple of pictures of kids falling off of old stuff, so it looks like they're hurt and stuff like that. So they really see the need for the new equipment. Paul worked real hard. They staged Adam up, real thing. No. But we got told, they said, if they had something to give them to show a picture of the equipment that we're trying to raise money for, and to show them the equipment that we have so that they can see it all. So that's what is being prepared. And anybody can get one, we'll have some stuff here. So please remember that. So whatever you'd like to do next Tuesday night, we'll go towards that. Prayer request time or update time as we go into a time of prayer. Louise Rogerson will be coming home Saturday. And Carol Holliday will be coming home Monday. They're both going to get home before Thanksgiving. They're both going to meet their goals. I told Carol this afternoon she lost. Louise is going to get out ahead of her. But anyhow, they both have done very well and are doing good. So we just want to, those are praise items for them. And Dawn spoke with me during supper and asked that her mother's family be remembered in prayer, because her mother's oldest brother, do I say this right, Oakley, Booty, Booty Oakley. I don't even know what his real name is now, because I lost that piece of paper that she wrote it down on. But at any rate, he went to the doctor day before yesterday. They diagnosed him with leukemia, and he died yesterday. He passed away. No, he passed away this afternoon. This afternoon. He was diagnosed with leukemia yesterday and died this afternoon. So, don't know any arrangements, but now that there yonder's quick now. So it's kind of just got their whole family, in shock, and she's got family traveling in and so on. So keep her mom's family in your prayers. Do we have, and of course we're going to, I've had updates from Cherry. She's being a good girl and keeping me informed. And they're ready to go to work on James, and the regimen is a lot more positive than I think we were maybe thinking about. But they can't do anything until they get that PET scan done. They're not going to do anything, lay out the program until they've done the PET scan. And they're waiting to get in to do that as soon as they can. So that's the deal there. Angie's granddaughter, Samantha's little girl McKenna. We mentioned Sunday night that she may have impetigo, or Sunday morning. And she's on her 4th antibiotic and it's just looking worse and worse. I don't know what Debbie told her, Michael. She came out for Karen to look at her, and I mean, it really looks bad. Debbie went and looked at her, and I think they advised her to get her on back to the ER. She has shingles at that age, but it's really looking bad. And Angie's just really worried. It's just, they're on their 4th antibiotic, and it just still keeps getting worse. It's just encompassed the entire ear virtually now. And so, it's just not, whatever they're doing is not working out. So I think they're going to go back through the ER process again and see if maybe they can get some different answers. I don't know, but keep little McKenna in your prayers. Anyone else? That's right. That is, now, do we have 2 getting tonsils out? No, one's Friday. Sean, Scott, Bella, Laylee is getting her tonsils out Friday morning. And Lily is getting her tonsils out tomorrow morning. Anybody else getting tonsils out this week? I mean, there's a special going on at the surgery center, I believe. So remember these wee ones. They're sorry, Joe. Okay. We in, right? Someone asked me, said, you said Sunday you're having an MRI this week. That is correct, and it'll be Friday morning. So, it is on my shoulder. We're not having too good of results with CT or shots. So we're back at the last look now. So it's either I got to find out what's going on. So that's Friday. So I'm gonna start with the tonsils and then go to my own down the street, and then I'll come back to the tonsils. Whatever. So, any other updates or prayer requests? Okay. Your nerves were fine. You say your nerves were fine? Okay, so your eye, it went well. Oh, good. Your nerves weren't in too good a shape. Okay. And I'll sit you on the same pew with Adam, or Kirsten, right? Okay. Oh, that would keep me a little bit disheveled myself. Okay, well, good. Others. Let's bow together. Father in heaven, thank you for this day and for the blessings, for the praise items, for the opportunities, and forgive us where we missed opportunities, where we didn't speak, where we didn't ask, or where we misspoke. And just look at our hearts and know that we really have a desire to live for you. And there are still times that we don't get it right. So we ask for your forgiveness. We pray for your strengthening and your direction and your guidance. There are many names that have been mentioned. Some are praise items, and we're just so happy for these families that people are going to be getting out of their care and getting home. But we pray for those who are awaiting test results, who are awaiting procedures, who are still looking at days that appear to be cloudy and uncertain in the near future. And we just pray you would be with each and every one. For Dawn's mom's family and for the sudden loss of her brother, we just pray that you would stand by this grieving family and just surround them with your arms of love and lift them up in these days ahead. And as we look to this season of Thanksgiving, help us understand the true meaning of gratitude, joy, and thanksgiving, so that it'll become more than just a meal, but it would become an attitude and a way of life that we could get better at, more consistent at. And we know that that's only possible when we continue to try and move ourselves out of the way and keep you in the center. So bless us as we seek to live for you. Bless us tonight as we seek to learn from you. These things we ask and pray in Christ. Amen. Okay. These are supposed to be happy times. You know? We're only a week, tomorrow, we're only a week away from Thanksgiving. And yet, it's kind of hard to look around and find a whole lot of good happening. And that's sad. And I've about come to the conclusion that more times than not, or is it just me, it seems like that as you approach something special, like a Thanksgiving or an Easter or a Christmas, or something where we really have an opportunity to focus on God's gifts to us and God's blessings to us, that stuff just gets in the way as it gets close. Stuff just happens. And times get hard. I was sitting among some of our church people Monday night when the charter school band did their tribute to the Vietnam veterans. And prior to them coming out of the seating and coming out onto the floor, there was a part of the program where Tiffany's father came forward, who is a Vietnam veteran. And the town of Columbia had gotten him to do this past Memorial Day. And so she asked him to share what he did then with the people that were there Monday night, and he did. And they were just called Letters from Vietnam and Letters to Vietnam. And these were actual letters that had been compiled, parts of letters, to try to, his goal was to try to give us some sense of an understanding of how maligned Vietnam veterans were, how ugly they were treated as compared to the best generation out of World War II. And there was one World War II veteran there, 95 years old, and he still stood up and did his salute. And did you know that of the over 23,000 military people killed in Vietnam, 20,000 of them were under 18 or under. And I sat back and I guess it was, I don't know if it was the devil in me. I don't know. But I got to thinking about all this stuff I'm seeing on the news about all these people up in Portland. They're all in these big cities. They're just walking the streets. So this guy ain't my president, and love Trump's hate and all this kind of stuff. And I looked at this dude sitting beside me and I said, you know what? I'll guarantee you there's not a single one of them that would last one day in basic training. Brian Todd knows it. They'd probably go into a coma and a deep depression when they got their hair cut. So that's the first thing they do, bud. They take your personality and start right in the middle and say, zzz. And I thought to myself, we have become, and I don't know where it happened, when it happened, or if it just was such a slow morph that we, but people are right when they say we have become an entitlement culture. I saw a college student from, where was it? Brown University, this young lady. She's being interviewed because she's setting up this movement that she really wants America to understand how important it is for her generation to receive free education. I got about as much use for that. And I'm like, she says, well, there is so much wealth. Did you bother to think about how those people accrued that wealth? It's called work. And maybe I'm on the back end of that generation that just remembers what it was like to sweat and how good it felt to get $75 at the end of the week in cold hard cash after all them barns of tobacco, and I had some money. And I could have been graveyard close to dead, but when Uncle Clyde came out unrolling them 10s and 20s and 5s, all of a sudden I was ready to play ball. I was ready to go to the river, go water skiing. I was good. Where did we go wrong? One of the places I think is that when we hit the trials, and we do, no one lives a just, unfettered life where nothing ever goes wrong. I mean, it doesn't happen. Is there anybody in here that's never had a bad day? I mean, gee. My wife said if she looks at me before she gets her glasses on, that's a bad day right to begin with there. I don't know. But I've decided that part of our problem is that we look so quickly when the trials and the tough times come and the tough situations or the tough decisions come, we very quickly learn how to look to someone else to fix it for us. Instead of relying on our foundational beliefs as Christians, and there's the other thing, we're not. We're not. How many of those protesters in Portland and Chicago and where else were they? How many of them were in church last Sunday, you reckon? How many do you reckon? And what's even a more disturbing question is, how many of them's parents do you reckon were in church or in a place of worship last Sunday? Because bottom line is, for the vast majority of us, what? We are the product of our environment. but in him. And that's where I think we run into this crisis of faith. Because they have none. And then when we have to wade through this in our daily living, because it's all around us, it becomes tough for us who are grounded in our faith, who do have a Christian background, and who do look to God. But sometimes it can wear on you and you wonder, what good is it? That's what I want to address tonight. It's the 46th Psalm. These guys are even going to save you the trouble of looking it up. There's some familiar verses in this that you've heard before, and I want to spend a few minutes giving you the Old Testament background, which puts a little bit of a different light on some of these verses. But starting with verse 1 of chapter 46, David wrote, God is our refuge and strength. He is an ever-present help in trouble. Therefore, we will not fear. Though the earth may give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, and though its waters roar and foam and the mountains quake with their surging, there's a river whose streams make glad the city of God, the holy place where the Most High dwells. God is within her. She will not fall. God will help her at break of day. Nations are in uproar. Kingdoms fall. He lifts his voice and the earth melts. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. Come and see what the Lord has done, the desolations he has brought on the earth. He makes wars cease to the ends of the earth. He breaks the bow and he shatters the spear. He burns the shields with fire. He says, be still and know that I am God. I will be exalted among the nations. I will be exalted in the earth. The Lord Almighty is with us. The God of Jacob is our fortress. I would like to start this way. One of the first things people who are weak on their faith one of the first things ministers hear, pastors hear is, where is God when I need him? Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Where am I? David reminds us, he's right here. He's a present help in trouble. The scholars believe that the 46th Psalm was composed during the reign of Sennacherib in the era of 2 Kings, during his invasion. And what David was doing was expressing his faith during those troubled times for God's people. He believed that God was weightier and mightier and safer than any trouble that could surround them. I want to look at just three aspects: God's protection in this psalm, his provision in this psalm, and his preeminence. So I'm going to just go through the verses. In the first three verses, David points out the value and the evidence of God's protection. He finds peace. He finds serenity during all of these earth-shattering crises. He didn't panic. He didn't panic. One of the first things when I was training to be a volunteer fireman, one thing you do not do when you get out of your vehicle or get off that fire engine is what? Run. You walk. Because you're carrying a whole lot of stuff and that oxygen needs to last a while. You don't see firemen running like that. No. They're trained, at least we were. Walk. You need your mind to be thinking. Which hose will you grab? I was pump operator and I was scared to death. Because I'd go back there and look. Left, right. Get to the pump panel. Left, right. Because the last thing you wanted to do, Michael and them laugh, last thing you want to do is yank pressure on a 2.5 when the guys ain't ready down on the other end. Because you're going to send them circling around in the air. And so you had to keep your calm. You had to be methodical when it came to doing things like that. You had to think or you get yourself in trouble and whoever it was with you very quickly. David said he didn't panic. He said instead he just maintained his confidence and he maintained his peace. He said in verse 3, though the earth give way and the mountains fall into the heart of the sea, though the waters roar and foam and the mountains quake, they're surging. The picture here, he's trying to paint a picture of the worst that could happen. You know, it doesn't matter. God's still there. He's trying to paint as dark a picture as he could. But he had the confidence. He said he expressed his confidence in God. Verse 1, God is our refuge. He is our strength. He is an ever-present help in time of trouble. We make a lot out of insurance. People sell a lot of insurance today. Why? Because they say you need what? Protection. I've got 2 letters on my desk back there that came in the mail to me today from 2 different insurance entities wanting me to make sure that I have enough protection in case something happens to me and my wife is left with the mortgage. And what I found real interesting was that they knew to the penny the balance on my mortgage. And said, for that, you pre-qualify for this. But you need this protection. Well, I don't dispute that I need the protection. We think that way. I don't want, if something happens to me, to have that kind of a burden on my wife and my children. We're taught to think that way. We're taught to protect ourselves. We're taught to protect what we have. We're taught to protect our families. It's a natural thing. But where we've gone wrong is we have come to the conclusion that we can do it ourselves. Let me tell you what, I don't care how much insurance you have. You could be like Dawn's uncle tomorrow. I don't care what kind of Blue Cross policy you have, it's not going to keep you from a terrible disease. It may go a long ways in helping pay for your treatments, but it's not going to keep you, it's not going to protect you from that. And David said, regardless of what hits me though, God is with me. Ever-present help, he's there. And then verses 4 through 7 is the second part here. The protection is there and the provision is there. See, he knew something that any enemy that would come before him did not know. He had this unseen security blanket. He had this unseen protection. And he described it as a river. Let me tell you why he described it as a river. Those of you that are Bible stuff, do you remember reading in the days of Hezekiah, the tunnel that was dug? In the days of Hezekiah, there was a tunnel that was dug to bring water from the Gihon spring into Jerusalem. They built a reservoir in the city. Well, a little bit. Reservoir. I see. Said it good. Inside the city. And a lot of people think this is what he's talking about. He's making a reference. There's a river that never runs dry. It's there always for his children. And the enemies didn't know that the inhabitants of Jerusalem had an unfailing supply of water. That's why it was so hard to lay siege to it. You couldn't starve them out. Very difficult when you can nourish yourself and wall yourself. What David's trying to illustrate to us is that as God's children, we have provisions that the unredeemed world does not know about. They just, because of their ignorance of God in their lives, their ignorance of a relationship with Jesus Christ, they have no clue of how we can get up in the morning and we might look at the paper, we might look at the news, and we might fuss, and we might have this attitude of disgust, but we know it's going to be okay. That's the bottom line. I'll repeat it again. You know, when when I did the night of prayer. They said that when John F. Kennedy was assassinated in November of 1963, people thought this country was going to fall apart. They said, what in the world is going to happen? They thought the United States was doomed. Some of our foreign allies were afraid that we would disintegrate as a country. He was such a popular president. Well, we didn't. And then in the 70s, when Richard Nixon was forced to resign, Lord, the same thing happened again. They thought, oh, Lord, how are we ever going to overcome this? The shame of this and the pressure of this and all this. They just thought we were not going to survive that. I believe we did. This country is the longest surviving republic on the face of the earth. We're the longest surviving democratic society. The average life of one is not much more than 225 years, but we're well on past that. We have our moments. And I believe that one of the reasons that we have our moments and survive our moments is because foundationally, by and large, we still are one nation under God. And Ronald Reagan said that when we're finally successful in separating the Almighty from the government, we will not have a country. And I believe that. I believe it takes people of character, people of integrity, people of honesty to serve us. I don't like a whole lot about our election, but I do like our new vice president. For one thing, he said, I believe in God first. My life is governed by God. Then his family, then his country. And he's never backed away from that. He says it to anybody that tries to interview him, even people who are agnostics and even people who are pure atheists. He doesn't, you're going to hear him say it. You know, I can if I understand their integrity and their character. Because we're all different. We're never going to all totally agree on everything. We weren't made that way. The city in verse 4 that David wrote about, he's talking about the city of God. He's talking about Jerusalem. He recognized that Jerusalem was an invincible city. It had been captured many times by the enemy, but he looked to the security of a new Jerusalem that we're promised. And then he went on with the last part. God's preeminent. Whatever crisis it is that the psalmist faced, verses 8 through 11, it seemed to be predominant. Yet, the crisis could not overtake his faith in God. It could not push his faith away from the center. I've had a young man from a former pastorate who called me with some very, very disturbing, personal family issues that are just heartbreaking to me. I did his wedding. I baptized his wife before she was his wife. I dedicated both of their children. And Sharon and I have a long, we have a 28-year relationship and friendship with this family. And my heart breaks for what they're going through right now. And I'm convinced, I'm thoroughly convinced that one of the problems is that one of the people in this family has walked away from their faith in God. They would say no, but I would venture to argue. Because you don't allow stuff like this to happen in a family if you're looking to God and knowing that regardless of how tough it gets, and they've gone through some tough stuff in their family, health-wise and so on, with both of his parents. He's an only child, so the care of his parents is totally up to him. And the last 18 months, they've really gone through a lot with him physically. They're both in their late 80s, and so on. You don't, but this family is a solid Christian family, have been all their lives. And yet all of a sudden for one to just say, done. Now, they've given up on something that is there for them. And I plan to confront that. I've been invited into the situation, and I'm not real thrilled about it. I'm not really excited about next week. But I care too much about this family not to try. So, something. But when the troubled times and the tough times overwhelm us, that's all we've got left to hold on to. Is this faith in God? And if the overwhelming and the troubles overtake us, then we've let go. We've let go. I don't know why, but I'm convinced that that's what's happened. But David gave an exhibition of God's power in verses 8 and 9. He found that the Lord was greater than any crisis that you could put up there. He shatters bows, he wrote. He breaks spears. He burns chariots with fire. Those were the three main killing weapons in his day. Those were the three weapons of choice. The archers were the snipers, just not looking through a scope. They could get you from further away than anybody else. They could just shoot. It was amazing the distance they got on those arrows. And when you got 5,000 of them coming at you, he says, no, that's nothing for God. It's a scene of God's supremacy over any nation. Come with anything you want to throw against us. If we're foundationally on God's plan and in his security, we can't be beaten. He says, stop and think about this. He wanted us to contemplate in verse 10. Stop and think about this. To seriously contemplate life is going to result in realizing there is a God. You just stop and take a minute and think about it. How can you go to the mountains? Of course, right now the mountains aren't a good place to go. If you read John Williams posted on Facebook, as a result, fire's about 30 to 40 minutes away from Craigmont. The party fire that you see them talking about, that's the one closest to Craigmont. And right now it's only about 45 minutes away, depending on wind direction and all that kind of stuff. And this is never, there have been fires up there, but nothing anywhere near Craigmont. It's always been in the more northern part, up towards Virginia and Tennessee. And it's just not a pretty picture. But there's eerie majesty. Someone took a picture and showed the night sky, how it was burning off in the distance. But it lit up the sky so much you could still see the fall colors in the trees and all. And it had an eerie beauty about it. Like, wow, it may be burning. Look at the face of God in all that beauty around it. Well, if you'll just sit back and take a moment, you can see his presence so many places. And that's why he could be so confident. That's why he could say that the Lord, his God, would be with him in troubled times. He would be his refuge. How many of you have a special place you just like to go? when you need one of those, and I hate to say it again because somebody came up to me and said, "What's a Calgon moment?" Just made me feel old. It did. Made me feel old. But that was one of the cutest commercials, showed that lady just sliding back in that tub and shutting the door, and she's just totally at peace, so serene. It didn't matter what the kids were doing on the other side of the door. They were up to daddy for a while, just she was having her moment. We all have those places we'd like to go. Some may be at the river, some may be at the beach, some may be in the mountains. Some may be just a place in the house. You can go and just kind of do your thing and not worry about hearing anything. But I'll tell you this, if you don't see God in that place, you're missing out something. Wherever your place is, whether it's the mountains or the coast or anywhere in between, or if you can't see God in it, then it's not near the refuge it could be for you. Because the psalmist said, He is my strength, He is my refuge. So, let the troubled times come. A gentleman looked at me today over at the ball game. I don't know who that gentleman was sitting right up behind me, but he didn't mind carrying on a conversation with me. And he called me preacher, so he could either read or he knew who I was. But I caught him. He caught me. I caught myself staring because he had bought 2 bottles of water, and those bottles of water have a picture of Rose of Sharon Church on them. Say compliments of Rose of Sharon in the address. And he was sitting there and he just started doing this. And he turned it sideways so he could read the other side like this, and just looking. And I thought, okay, it has served its purpose. He took a minute and actually looked and then turned it around to read. Well, what is this place? And I wanted to turn around and say, now that's a mighty fine looking church. You ought to see the inside of it. But I didn't. I didn't. Next thing I know, he was calling me preacher and talking about all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, you never know. But he made the statement that he said, people don't understand what it took to get us where we are today. Everybody thinks somebody's supposed to hand them something. He said, what happened to our work ethic? What happened to it? He says, this stuff just don't happen. He says, where's their head? And, I was scared for a minute he might offer me an opinion as to where he thought their heads were. And I didn't really want to hear that either. But he was a nice guy, but he didn't mind talking a bit. Do you know who he was? I don't know who he was. You were there. Was that her husband? Oh. Okay. That being said, he's a hoot. Okay, I'll loosen up. He said, why don't you get up here and rest your back? Sit up here on the back with me. And I'm like, I didn't mean it that way. I meant, well, why don't we just stand for a minute? I was serious. We need to stand. I can't get out of this one. He was a nice enough guy. But you open yourself up and give yourself the opportunity to let someone see parts of you that, we both agreed that as tough as things seemed, it was going to be okay. And we both agreed that our girls didn't have a chance in Hades of winning that basketball game. The boys won't know better. Well, the cheerleading was mighty fine. That's all I think the girls had 2 points at halftime, the middle school girls, and I'm not certain about the boys. I had to come on back, and Paul says that was not much better of a picture. I think we have a pretty good varsity squad, though. I don't know. First game of the season. Uh-huh. Okay. Okay, thank you all for coming, and if my young guns with their young backs will come up here and let the guys that know how to do it show you where to put those walls and things like that, I would really appreciate it. So just please be careful unplugging the sound stuff, because those pins can be delicate. May God bless you and keep you is my prayer. Michael Bryant, would you dismiss us, please?